half a point. In the entire history of Formula One, over 1,000 races across more than 70 years, no world championship has ever been decided by a smaller margin. Half a point. In 1984, Alain Prost won 7 races, more than any other driver on the grid that year. He did not become world champion. There is one race from that season I want you to understand. A race in Monaco that was stopped before it was finished. A race where a young Brazilian, in a car that had no business running at the front of a Formula One field, was closing on Prost at a rate nobody in that paddock had seen before. What happened when that race was stopped? And 18 laps from the end of the final race of the season, when one man's brakes gave way at exactly the wrong moment. What would the numbers have said if they had held? This is the story of half a point, and everything that created it. I want to start with a number, 7. In 1984, Alain Prost won 7 Formula One races. In a 16-round season, that is almost 1 in 2. No other driver came close. His teammate Niki Lauda, a 2-time world champion who had come back from burns so severe he was given last rites in hospital, won 5. But the championship does not go to whoever wins the most races. It goes to whoever accumulates the most points. And when one of your best days is worth half what it should have been, the maths stops working in your favor. McLaren in 1984 were not just good. They were dominant in a way that was almost uncomfortable to watch. The McLaren MP4/2, powered by a TAG Porsche turbo engine developed in partnership with Porsche, was in a different category to everything else on the grid. McLaren won 12 of the 16 races that season. 12. Prost and Lauda were teammates, 2 of the best drivers who ever lived, in the same car, at the same time, fighting for the same thing. Prost, at 29, was the faster qualifier. He was winning more races. He was the one everyone expected to take the title. Lauda, at 35, was everything experience teaches you. Calm, precise, surgical in his management of a car and a race. Where Prost was a scalpel, Lauda was a vice. He clamped down, and he did not let go. By mid-season, Prost led the standings. More wins, more speed. But 1984 was not just a story about 2 men in the same garage. There was a third element. A young Brazilian in a car so outgunned by the factory teams that most people had written off his season before it started. His name was Ayrton Senna. And what he did in Monaco that year is the reason we are here. Monaco was the race that changed this entire championship, not because of who won it, but because of how it ended. The Monaco Grand Prix, May 1984. Rain. Conditions that turned one of the most difficult circuits in the world into something barely manageable. Cars spinning. Drivers on the edge from the very first lap. Prost was leading. He had the race in his hands. But somewhere behind him, something was happening that the broadcasters could barely keep up with. Ayrton Senna had started 13th, on a circuit where passing is almost impossible, even in the dry, in torrential rain, in a Toleman that had no business being anywhere near the front of a Formula One race. The conditions were doing some of the work. The rain was the worst anyone in that paddock could remember at Monaco. Cars were aquaplaning. Drivers were losing the car in places they had never lost it before. Nigel Mansell had already crashed out. Ricardo Patrese, Michele Alboreto, Corrado Fabi, gone. Each retirement moved Senna forward, but he was not simply surviving while others failed. He was the fastest man on the circuit. One by one, he picked off the cars still running ahead of him. By the time he reached second place, there was nobody left between him and Prost. He was in second place, and he was getting faster, every single lap. Prost knew Senna was coming. He could see it on the timing screens. He made a calculation. McLaren had introduced carbon brakes that season. In the wet, they were dropping out of their temperature window, losing feel, losing bite. Prost could not push harder without risking losing the car entirely, and he made the decision to stop pushing. When I saw Senna catching up to me, I didn't want to increase my pace because of my brakes. Since he wasn't a threat to the championship, I preferred to see him win and myself finish second, rather than risk hitting the barriers. Senna was not in contention for the title. A Toleman was never going to beat a McLaren over a full season, so Prost chose the safe result: second place, full points, no crash, and let Senna come. The gap, which had been over 30 seconds, was falling at around 3 seconds per lap. At lap 31, 7.446 seconds between them. Senna was still coming, and then the red flag came out. Course clerk Jackie Ick stopped the race on lap 32. Prost, in the moment, thought it was the right call. As he said, "So the decision to stop the race was advantageous for me. How could I not call it wise?" He was wrong, not about the safety reasoning, but about the maths. Under the 1984 regulations, a race had to cover a minimum threshold of distance before it qualified for full championship points. Monaco, stopped when it was, fell short. Half points were awarded. Prost, who was going to win the race, or finish second with full points, instead received 4.5 points. Not 9, not 6, 4.5. Lauda, retired from the race, received nothing. The season was now heading into its final act. One race left, Estoril, Portugal. And the arithmetic that Prost carried into that race was, by any measure, a knife edge. With one race remaining, the Portuguese Grand Prix at Estoril, the standings were: Niki Lauda, 66 points, Alain Prost, 62.5 points. Lauda led by 3.5 points. For Prost to win the World Championship, he needed to outscore Lauda by more than 3.5 points on that one final afternoon. In the race, that meant Prost winning, and Lauda finishing no higher than third, or Lauda not finishing at all. Those were the margins. That was the arithmetic. Prost had won 6 races that year. He had been the fastest man in Formula One more often than not. He had done his job, week after week, at the highest level the sport had seen. Everything he needed was in front of him. One race, Portugal. For 51 laps of that race, Prost was winning it. The championship was his. And then, on lap 52, everything changed. Alain Prost won the Portuguese Grand Prix. He led from the front. He drove the race he needed to drive. He crossed the line first. But winning was never going to be enough on its own. What mattered, the only thing that mattered, was where Lauda finished. Nigel Mansell had been running second. On lap 52 of 70, his brakes failed. His car spun. He dropped out of contention. Lauda moved into second place. He held it. He brought the car home. Prost, 9 points from the win, combined with his 62.5 to 71.5 total. Lauda, 6 points from second, combined with his 66 to 72 total. Final standings: Niki Lauda, 72 points. World champion, Alain Prost, 71.5 points. Runner-up, the smallest margin in the history of the Formula One World Championship. But here is what I keep coming back to. 3 moments in 1984. 3 different outcomes. And in every single one of them, the numbers say something different to what actually happened. Here is every version of 1984 that might have been. What actually happened? Monaco. Red flagged before the threshold for full points. Half points awarded. Prost, 4.5 points, first. Senna, 3 points, second. Lauda, 0, retired. Portugal. Prost wins 9 points. Lauda second, 6 points. Final. Lauda 72, Prost 71.5. Lauda champion by 0.5 points. Scenario A. Monaco runs to full race distance. Prost wins. Prost gets 9 points for the win, not 4.5. An extra 4.5 points across the season. Everything else stays the same. Portugal, Mansell's brakes, Lauda second. Final. Prost 76, Lauda 72, Prost champion by 4 points. Scenario B. Monaco runs to full race distance. Senna overtakes Prost. Prost himself said it clearly. If the race had not been stopped, it was impossible for me to fight. He was managing his brakes. He had already decided second place was the safe result. Senna, on steel brakes, unaffected by the cold and wet, was closing at 3 seconds per lap. At 7.4 seconds behind with several laps remaining, he was on course to pass Prost. Senna wins. Prost finishes second. Here is where the numbers do something unexpected. Prost, as the race winner, received 4.5 half points. Prost, as second place in a full-distance race, would have received 6 full points. That is 1.5 points more than he actually got, even finishing behind Senna. Final: Prost 73, Lauda 72, Prost champion by 1 point. Even in the version of 1984 where Senna wins Monaco, Prost is still world champion, because 6 full points for second is more than 4.5 half points for first. The question was never who won Monaco. The question was whether Monaco counted for full points. Scenario C. Mansell's brakes hold at Portugal. Mansell stays second. Lauda finishes third, 4 points instead of 6. Final: Prost 71.5, Lauda 70. Prost champion by 1.5 points. 1 brake failure, 1.5 points. That is the difference. 3 scenarios. All 3 give Prost the world championship. The only version of 1984 where Lauda wins is the one that actually happened, where Monaco is stopped early and Mansell's car fails at exactly the right moment in Portugal. Prost knew it. He said it simply years later. That is an example of how you can lose the championship for half a point, which is still a record today, but still be happy that my team won. Alain Prost went on to win 4 world championships: 1985, 1986, 1989, and 1993. In our last video, we told you about Gilles Villeneuve, the most loyal man Formula One ever produced, and what that loyalty cost him. If you haven't seen it, it's right there. And if half a point, 1 stopped race, and 1 brake failure stayed with you, subscribe. Because this channel goes looking for the Formula One stories that deserved a better telling. This was one of them.